The Texas Parks and Wildlife television series is funded in part by a grant from the Wildlife and Sport Fish Restoration Program. Through your purchases of hunting and fishing equipment and motorboat fuels, over $50 million in conservation efforts are funded in Texas each year. And by Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation, helping to keep Texas wild with the support of proud members across the state. Find out more at tpwf.org. Additional funding provided by Ram Trucks. Guts, glory, Ram. Coming up on Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Paragliding, word to describe it, is euphoric. You leave the ground, you just about leave your human life there, and you become a bird.
You have a checkered garter snake, and that's a common snake in this area, and they love to eat frogs.
If this is work, this is my most favorite job in the world. This is the most fun I've ever had.
Texas Parks and Wildlife, a television series for all outdoors.
When was the last time you guys flown here?
Oh, gee. I flew here about a month and a half ago. So it's a little bit north, and it's going to straighten out according to the forecast.
And we're launching at what, 54?
About 51.
51?
Yeah, Agave Hill, right there is about 5,000. The name of our sport is paragliding. We may launch off a small hill or off the top of a mountain peak. It's a soaring aircraft, which means we generally don't have a motor, and we find air that's going up. And we get in that air and we go up, and we go up and up and up.
It's a pretty obscure air sport. I think it's maybe 4,000, 5,000 pilots in the U.S. There are sites all over the country, and this one looks pretty awesome.
Jeff's in the air.
Awesome. You look good coming in.
Franklin Mountain State Park is the only park in Texas and one of the few parks in the United States that encourages paragliding. So the Franklins are a great source of what we call lift from the air coming in, and they're also a great source of thermals, two ways we get up, all here in the Franklin. So that makes it special.
Most people think we jump off of a cliff and it's life or death. You just step off and you float.
Okay, Lee just launched.
You feel the wing flying. It's really just floating off. It is relaxing, fun. It's a lawn chair in the sky, and you enjoy life.
Paragliding, word to describe it, is euphoric. You leave the ground, you just about leave your human life there, and you become a bird. It's addictive, very much so, and it's absolutely fabulously fun. It's amazing it's legal.
Hopefully I don't make a face plant on this landing, huh?
beautiful sunset coming out in the back. Very smooth, enjoyable. Doesn't get any better than hanging out with friends and flying.
That was a hoot. So much fun.
My name is Don Cash, and I'm one of the producers for the Texas Parks and Wildlife television show.
Here we go.
I spend most of my working hours holed up in a dark edit room putting the shows together. But that doesn't mean I never get to go out and enjoy any actual real nature. As a matter of fact, when I leave here and head home, I've got my own little nature preserve waiting for me. This is my frog pond. The pond got started about 10 years ago. We dug a hole in the ground, put in a liner, stacked some rocks, installed a filter, and added a dozen or so goldfish. Now, the goldfish are really nice, but the pond attracts other animals as well. Every spring, it seems like every frog in the neighborhood hangs out here. It's pretty neat. I wanted to know what kind of frogs they are and why I have so many, so I brought in an expert.
You know, what's really neat is that you basically had a dry chunk of dirt and you built a pond. When you build a fish pond, you can expect other wildlife to show up. Birds will come and drink and bathe. Frogs will show up and breed and feed. And then snakes and other predators may show up and feed on those frogs. Pretty cool. Here's a sign of a happy, healthy frog population. This is a whole mass of frog eggs right here. It's really nice. You create a little oasis here.
Well, what kind of frogs do I have there? What do you see?
These are Rio Grande leopard frogs, and you have all sizes. That frog right there is one of the biggest Rio Grande leopard frogs I've ever seen. This is probably the prime watering hole for frogs in your neighborhood.
The nearest natural water to my house is a creek about 3 miles away, but somehow frogs and toads manage to find their way here. Now, I don't know the difference between frogs and toads, but I do know that a couple of years ago, the pond was taken over by a whole bunch of very noisy Gulf Coast toads. So how do they know this is here?
That's a good question. How do frogs know a pond is here? Part of it is random chance frogs finding it, but also once a frog finds it and there's a male calling, other frogs are going to be attracted to that. One male calling isn't enough to attract females to that site to breed. Once you get several males, they'll change their calls and they work together and form a chorus. And that's much more attractive to females.
In the spring, when it's really busy, the pond becomes sort of a frog buffet.
You have a checkered garter snake, and that's a common snake in this area, and they love to eat frogs.
Yeah, I've noticed that when the snakes are around, the frogs manage to stay very still.
First line of defense is to avoid detection. So if the frogs can't easily escape or it's not necessary, they'll just freeze up and hope that the snake notices someone else. You don't have to be the fastest frog. Yeah, they're hoping someone else moves first.
A couple of things to note about my pond. These elephant ear plants aren't native. We got them from someone else's fish pond, and they will not go away. And the goldfish? They came from the pet store. But since my pond is a self-contained ecosystem, there's no real danger that the plants or the fish are going to cause a problem elsewhere.
It's important to go native, stay local, encourage what you've got in your neighborhood. Certainly don't introduce exotic or non-native species to Texas, and just be patient. If there are frogs in your area, they'll find your pond.
And so the frogs find my pond year after year. And I like that. Best frog pond you've ever seen?
It's epic. The most amazing 9 square meters in southwestern Travis County. I think that's pushing it.
We become very much tuned to the weather. Become very much tuned to the rise of the moon and the stages of the moon. Very much so in tune with the earth.
Freedom, just absolute freedom. The freedom of the land, the animals, the birds, the sounds.
This is Blue Mountain Peak Ranch. I'm Richard Taylor.
Good boy. I'm Susie Paris. There you go. Blue Mountain is an oasis in the middle of nowhere. And we are literally in the very heart of Texas, in the middle of nowhere.
This ranch is about what we call eco-restoration. I just find a tremendous enjoyment out of seeing sort of nature the way it wants to be. So the goal that we have for the ranch is very simply increasing species diversity and water into the aquifer. My now deceased wife and I, Sally and I together as a team, went on this quest to find some land that we could do this kind of work on. We frankly spent 7 years starting on the West Coast and coming this way. And until we got to Texas, we didn't find anything that quite fit. She passed on in 2007. She had cancer. One of her statements, which turned out to be true, is, "I'm not dying until I see the last damn cedar cut down." And she passed on about 4 or 5 months later. What we found is that the rate at which the recovery was after a burn was truly phenomenal. I must admit, the first time we lit up a big patch and it looked like the moon, and I was like scared. I thought, oh, what have we done? We've ruined what used to be green, at least. The ash juniper's green. Now there's nothing but gray. Well, boy, was I wrong. Within a month and a few rains, pop, everything started up again, which has led to what we have here now.
There's more life. There's more plant life, there's more wildlife. Of course, all this life depends on water, and there's a lot more of it today as a result of this management program.
This was just a cedar forest when you first came here. And I started asking you, can I cut that cedar down? Is that okay? And you kind of chuckled and said, you can cut that one down. I said, can I cut that one down? You said, yes. I said, can I cut all these down, that whole bunch of them? And you said, yeah, you go ahead and do that, Richard. And I didn't get it until we started cutting it down, what a project it was. But the difference it's made, of course, is just incredible.
I remember 15 years ago, I said there may be potential for a vireo or two here one day, and we hear them everywhere we turn around.
Yeah.
The browse diversity is really amazing to me. After cedar cutting, after prescribed fire out here, he's got different species of sumac, the red buds, Spanish oak trees, and then look at the little blue stem. Really good signs here that he's done a lot of good management on this ranch.
When Mr. Taylor started out, his goal was simply to increase species diversity and put water into the aquifer. And he was able to accomplish that. We were able to hold the soil, catch that rainfall, put water into the aquifer, and now we have springs that were once dry, now flowing again continuously throughout the year.
So this is a patch of cedar brake that we've kept. And here we are coming into an area where there's not any grasses, there's no wildflowers, not even the cactus is doing well.
And that's what it looked like, right?
This is the example of what the whole ranch looked like when we started. So as you begin to walk out of the cedar brake, you can see the dramatic difference from removing and burning has on the habitat.
I always think here that you really don't fully appreciate this that's been done here until you walked through the cedar brake.
That's why we saved it.
But I know the work was hard, but now you're reaping the rewards now.
All right, you ready?
Okay.
Go. I'm on different wildflowers, one of each. Susie, my partner now, Susie and I both mentor at the local independent school district here in Mason. One of the nice things is that we get to bring them out here and educate them and show them and what goes on at the ranch. You can kind of turn them loose, and off they go into the wilderness to have the kind of experience that I had as a kid. And it just makes me feel so grateful to be able to do that.
Every day, I think he asks himself, if I'm doing this today, is it working towards my goals? And if it's not, I'm not going to do it.
If this is work, this is my most favorite job in the world. This is the most fun I've ever had.
On a winter day in Austin, Marshall Wright fixes some food for his family.
The ducks, I only want to do them to about medium rare. Onion, green bell pepper, and celery. What they call the Holy Trinity.
Marshall has been cooking all his life, but this meal is different from most.
I'm gonna make gumbo.
The preparation for it really began in a hunter education class 6 months earlier.
Which one's got the most control over the firearm muzzle? The one in the middle, absolutely.
Marshall's interest in healthy, local food has led him to explore hunting for the first time.
Not to stereotype, but I don't maybe necessarily look like a hunter.
But Marshall does represent a new trend among city dwellers who want to know more about where their food comes from.
That's good. We're at the downtown Austin Farmers Market. I guess I'll have to try them. I like the smaller ones as well. Shopping at farmers markets in general has started to gain a lot of popularity.
The smaller ones are $3 and the biggest ones are $5.
You can come to the market and get food straight from the source. It's going to be better for you to eat, and it's better for the local economy. Thank you.
Enjoy, brother.
Thanks, Larry. Because of the rise in obesity in America, because of the Food Inc. movies, because of the Michael Pollan books, it's hard now to ignore where your food comes from. I hate to say it's trendy because I think people are finally realizing we need to get back to how we shop and how we eat. Yeah.
Love, if you want any help with feedback.
And Marshall brings back more than food from his trips to the farmer's market.
I'm actually in the process of shooting a cookbook.
Food photography is as much his passion as cooking and eating.
So much food photography is focused on that finished dish. I like the process of cooking the food or preparing the food as much as I do the eating of the food, and then to capture that with photography.
When Marshall is not at the computer for his photography or his job in social media, he also keeps a blog about, you guessed it, food.
My blog's very heavy on photography, but I definitely got into it as a means of exploring my passion for food. For the most part, I just like to eat.
This focus on food has led to Marshall's interest in getting some the traditional way.
This shotgun here came from my father-in-law. There is a primal back to basics element of it that I think is very prominent in food culture right now. What can we do and how can we find ways to eat that we know what we're eating? And so hunting seemed to be obviously a logical step to that.
Marshall Wright.
So what now that Marshall has learned the rules of hunter safety?
92, congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah, now what? Probably to learn how to shoot a gun, that'd be a good start.
The goal today is just essentially familiarization with a shotgun.
To get some hands-on experience, Marshall also enrolls in a hunter education field course.
So today we're going after these birds called skeet. Okay. Now it's loaded, ready to go. Keep your finger outside the trigger guard until we're ready to fire.
Pull. Still a little bit intimidating.
Nice. You have to move the muzzle to the bird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pull. There's more to think about than I thought.
Okay, nice. What you had problems doing is finding the bird quicker.
Pull. I've shot a shotgun once.
Ooh.
This was the first time.
Just below it.
Pull. I hit 0.
Okay.
I want to bird hunt. It's going to take some more practice, but I'll definitely get it.
Ooh, just scratched the left edge of it.
I at least got a little piece of one.
What is this part called?
Yeah, but
stock.
As Marshall finds out, if you don't grow up hunting, learning the ropes can take some effort. While interest and determination go a long way, Getting started may mean finding friends who already hunt or hiring a guide.
All right, roll that over on the bolt handle if you would please.
Downrange, but in the same position.
Fortunately, through a contact from this class, Marshall is invited on his first hunt.
15. So that's something.
All the preparation may soon pay off.
Nice. All right, nailed it.
You know, it's not grab a gun and go sit out in the woods and shoot something. There's a lot that's involved in getting to this point. I do hope it's successful. Either way, I get to be outside and we get to be in nature and do something fun. Yes, ma'am, I need to get a hunting license, please.
Okay. And what are you going to be hunting for?
For duck.
Okay.
And of course, I had to go buy a hunting license, which I went and did this morning. So I'm licensed now officially, and
have a good day.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to get some ammo for the hunt, and yeah, then we'll be ready to go early, 5:30 in the morning tomorrow.
All right, let's go and sit down and get ready. It was pretty slow. This property typically will have 5 to 12 flights of birds. Get it. Shoot. Far off. Yeah. Kill, no bird. We saw 4 groups of birds work, but that's part of hunting.
Just sitting there and waiting in the anticipation of when the birds are going to come and if they're going to come and what do you do when they come, and you know, and you have to go through all the stuff that you've learned in hunter education, and thinking about your firearm and just everything about it runs through you in a split second. It was exciting.
There's some birds up top. Take them. Good shot. Dixie! Nice shot, Marshall.
Thank you.
Nice shot. Marshall did great. You know, I'm impressed. Good girl.
I happened to be lucky and got a couple.
Nice. Nice shooting.
Thanks.
You know, we could go purchase a cow for about $600 if you really want to go home with some meat. These are free-range, organic.
We didn't see a lot of birds, but we saw enough that it was successful. This is it. It was fun. I'm absolutely going to do it again. Okay, let's eat. Being able to go and do a hunt, then come back and be able to share it with other people, I think that seems to be a nice trend that people are trying to get back to.
Good duck in there. That tastes nice.
Daddy, I like your gumbo.
Thank you, Maggie.
And my face messy.
Isn't this great?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
This series is funded in part by a grant from the Wildlife and Sport Fish Restoration Program. Through your purchases of hunting and fishing equipment and motorboat fuels, over $50 million in conservation efforts are funded in Texas each year. And by Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation, helping to keep Texas wild with the support of proud members across the state. Find out more at tpwf.org. Additional funding provided by Ram Trucks. Guts, Glory, Ram.